It's time to wake up. Halloween is about to start. With lots of stories about ghouls being torn apart. When it comes to Joanne, no, you won't find no faults. But if you mess with the bull, you might get the shults. It's time for morning. It's morning with Bill and Joe. It's time for morning. It's gonna be a trick or treat show. It's Bill and Joe.
Hello and welcome to Mornin, everyone. I'm Joe.
I am Charleston Bill. That's my new name.
Boy.
That's where I am, so that's where I am. And you guys, we are extremely excited to have back our old pal and religion correspondent, Lucien Greaves from the Satanic Temple. You can see all of their amazing work at satanictemple.com. He's their co-founder and spokesperson. It's a worldwide active congregation best known for its efforts to litigate in defense of equal religious rights, as well as the oft overlooked constitutional guarantee that is freedom from religion. If only we had freedom from Joanne, this world would pretty much be perfect. But we're on our way thanks to these guys.
I agree with that.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure. All right. How are you, man?
Not bad. I mean, it's been a wild year, but pre-election is always pretty wild.
That old Chinese proverb about may you live in interesting times, that was never supposed to be a compliment. It was actually a curse. And this proves it. Living in interesting times is never necessarily a good thing. Well, listen, I am, guys, I don't want to put on airs, but I'm actually at the, let's see, it's not the Hilton, it's the Best Western? No, I guess it's it's a Holiday Inn Express lobby. Wow. And I have a feeling that the airport I'm about to go to is very similar to your headquarters at Salem right now. Or is it not yet that busy? I assume all of October is a wash for as far as getting around.
October is really busy. Actually, this past weekend wasn't so bad. Ironically, I think that's because they're reporting it was going to be so heavily slammed and that there was going to be no parking whatsoever. So it was actually the deadest I had seen it in October and since we've been open, but I don't know when that'll bounce back.
The foot traffic alone, though, I mean, particularly as we get closer and closer to the 31st, I'd put a bullet in my head, which I guess is kind of Halloween-y. But I don't like people. But
no, I'm not for the crowds either.
So being that it is around Halloween, you recently wrote on, I believe it was your Substack, a piece called The War on Halloween. And, you know, for everyone who enjoys the festivities, there's always a few who ruin it for everyone, or at least try to. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that's, you know, the Christian influence. Where's Jesus in this holiday? So there are the people who give out Bibles or little blessings. They don't want anyone dressing up. You did write about there was a movement to create JesusWeen.
Yeah.
So dirty.
Yeah,
is that what they said to baby Jesus? Oh, look at his little JesusWeen.
I think the name of it really helped sink that movement from the start.
Does Christianity have focus groups? I mean, come on.
I don't think so.
It was a church out of
unfortunately,
Calgary.
it didn't take off.
I think the idea of it took off, but more as an item of ridicule. Somebody tried introducing JesusWeen back in 2011, and apparently people find their propaganda every year since then and start laughing about it. I thought it was a more recent thing too, so I tried looking it up. It looks like the actual movement to put forward JesusWeen kind of fizzled out under internet mockery, but I was more interested in what they were pitching as alternatives to Halloween, because every year people are trying to pitch ideas of what they can do other than celebrate Halloween, because to the fragile evangelical, anything that's not glorification of their religious viewpoint is actually hostility against it, and they need to take action. So it was, I was trying to see, like, what were they going to try to do to try to replace the fun of Halloween with something equally fun, but, centered on their religious viewpoints. And amazingly, they didn't come up with anything even close to being fun or that you could imagine being a replacement for going out and just trick-or-treating and getting candy. Most all of the ideas that I saw put forward were they were just all proselytizing. It's like give kids Bibles, or the ones that tried to follow along with Halloween the most were the ones that were trying to slip in biblical tracts with candy and things like that. And you see a lot of people doing that every year anyways. When I would go around, we'd get those chick tracts. Did you ever see those? The little comic book pamphlets that would tell like
absolutely.
a biblical story. Yeah, that guy died like 10 years ago now, I think, the guy who drew those comics. But I still think it's like an institution. He set up the chick tracts and people
had those out. I actually think my mom might have gotten me those.
But I doubt there's an area where it's like people don't put themselves as a target on the map when they hand those. Because you get those as a kid, you're thinking, all right, motherfucker, you're the one who gets the egg on the house or the, or the toilet paper.
Oh, yeah. Like, soap on the windows.
Yeah. It's trick or treat, and you don't consider that a treat. So it's like you got to get your comeuppance, right?
Yeah.
But I like some of the ideas that were, some of these ideas were, as alternatives to Halloween, just sounded like torture if you're a kid. These elaborate family events where you talk about biblical stories and things like that. No kid wants to do that. It was just, if you're going to answer the question of why is it that Halloween has managed to survive, even given every year there's a whole Christian movement to undermine it, do something else, replace it with something more Bible-based. The answer is their ideas all suck, and you can't see anybody willingly participating in what they're proposing. JesusWeen being one of those things. JesusWeen was supposed to be, you hand out Bibles to kids instead of candy. That was their whole idea. So on Halloween, you hand out Bibles. But, think that one through. You got a kid with a bag, and he's going to go around and collect. How many fucking Bibles do you need?
Right?
You get one, your night's over, right? Like, you're not going to read 30 Bibles.
Well, considering Trump's charging, what, $70, $60 for something that's usually free in a hotel room, not to plug my hotel again, that's actually a pretty good haul for Halloween, because that's one expensive treat. Oh, by the way, Joe, I got you the Halloween treat that is cranberry juice, so you don't get a UTI.
Oh, that's so
You're
sweet.
Welcome. Straight from the kitchen.
Hey, speaking of Bill having too much fun, that's really the main issue that I'm seeing, Lucien, is this idea that religious groups want to make their religion fun. And religion inherently isn't. Unless maybe you're in a Baptist church and you're singing along and clapping your hands. It's just not. And I think that they need to embrace that fact and not pretend to be something they're not.
Yeah, maybe things can just be fun every so often. Maybe not everything has to be about your religion or something else. Like,
sure,
let kids dress up and have fun. The amount of hysteria you see from some people, just like I said, that fragility when they think that not everybody uniformly is celebrating their day. But then again, it's like I said in the piece I wrote, I have found that celebrating Christmas, not objecting to it, participating in the holiday season as me or, as a known Satanist, that pisses people off just as much as if I were, actively acting anti-Christmas. I really don't care about the religious connotations of Christmas. They'll talk about, what about the Christ in Christmas? What about it? I don't care. Everybody's getting together. People have day off. Like, I'm not going to sit in the corner and sulk. Like, fuck it. I'm part of it. And that pisses people off more than you could imagine.
That's especially about the whole exclusivity versus inclusivity thing. That's probably one of the more shocking things, specifically overall. And also, like, speaking of Salem, like, this entire town was built on a religion telling people what to do and torture. Do you guys actually have, I would assume to a certain extent, Christian...
We actually torture people?
Well, some people are into that, and that actually might be a selling point. But, like, do Christian groups go there to try kind of do things like promote something, say like JesusWeen, or just tell people how unholy Halloween is? Do they go to the belly of the beast that is Salem?
Oh yeah,
or
yeah,
have they
yeah.
given up?
Yeah. No, that's part of the annual amusement. I swear.
Oh my God.
If they didn't come, the city would probably have to hire somebody to play that role, because it's such a selling point, because you'll see mobs of tourists laughing, yucking it up, standing next to these street preachers who are ranting and raving and holding signs about going to hell and everything. They make a spectacle of themselves. They have to realize they're not really changing minds, but I guess they have that thought process, that thinking, like, if I can only reach one person, and millions of people pass through, they're not reaching any of them. Everybody's laughing at them, getting pictures and things like that, but they still seem to feel like they're speaking to the man upstairs, or that somehow they're logging good work or whatever.
I guess
But
it's almost
no,
like...
they are definitely there, and they will rant, they will rave, and sometimes they will get offensive about it when people have their kids around, and they're still just certain that they're the good guys in this scenario. They'll protest us too sometimes. Our building is a little off the beaten path, and they like to be in the heart of the downtown area where there's a lot of people. But every so often, we'll get a group of people just standing on the sidewalk in front of our place holding signs.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that really is like, I think if there's the whole idea of like you're earning rental space in heaven, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've converted someone. It's that you've tried to. So like, it's almost as if they're playing as much of a role as we are by trying not to mock them or something. I mean, I guess they don't. As long as they feel that they have put their best foot forward, it doesn't really matter how many people laugh at them. So everybody wins.
That's got to be what it is.
Yeah.
Because they're not. I have never seen a circumstance where somebody walks by and is like, "Really? Did the Bible say that? Shit, you're right. I'm with you guys."
I'm trying to think if I've ever met. I think I've met people who, for shits and giggles, have actually gone and done, after being recruited on the street, because there's a Scientology big building, but one in Harlem and one in Times Square. And I've known people that have gone and done their e-meter or whatever, just out of curiosity's sake. But I'm trying to think if I ever actually saw someone like willingly being duped, because I walk by there all the time.
Well, you know what? In New York, I feel like you would see that less. I mean, people try to stop us on the street to like donate to an animal fund or save a tree.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're like, "Can I ask you a question?" As soon as you hear that on the sidewalk, you're like, "No, get away from me."
As an aside, at our headquarters, somebody donated us an e-meter one time, and I was eager to experiment with it, because I thought there would be at least a little more to it than there ends up being. But I mean, now take this for what it is. I looked through the instructions and everything, so I'm not an expert e-meter operator. But in my experience, you have to hold these little metal rods, and it's supposed to read positive or negative reaction. And when I play with the thing, it is so easily gamed as to be worthless. You squeeze a little harder, you get more of a signal. You lighten up a little bit, it goes down. So I feel like you can just manually and intentionally manage what the reading is on it. And I can't figure out how you can get a better reading from it than what you get, but it really does, to me, seem like the entire thing is an absolute scam, and e-meters are worthless.
That is absolutely amazing to me, because they would always say that, I mean, really what all Scientology is now is a lot of high-priced real estate, because if you look at those buildings, look inside, there ain't nobody there. Unless these people were born into it. They always said that, like, the thing that kind of killed Scientology was Google, because normally you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, and after so many years, you realize that all this money you've invested in is telling you that the galactic warlord Xenu has embedded a bunch of souls or engrams in a volcano. I mean, obviously, I'm not getting specifically right, but they're just like, what? But they're like, ugh, at this point, I'm in it to win it. But now people can find out like that. And to that end, if you're making the e-meter readily accessible, and people find out it's really just kind of a Tonka truck with wires, I just kind of think that hurts the point. Like, you think they want to keep that machine as secret as possible.
Yeah, I agree. They must be like just skating off of inheritance they've gotten from the last generation that gives their entire life savings to the organization after it goes away.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, I have no idea how sustainable that model is or how much longer they'll last.
Well, as long as Tom Cruise keeps on ranking in the box office.
Speaking a little bit more about the Satanic Temple, specifically your members in Iowa, a few
Oh,
weeks
yes.
ago, they hosted, I love this, a reading marathon on the Tama County Courthouse lawn. So originally, the event where they were going to read Paradise Lost out loud in public for anyone who wanted to join,
Yes.
was set to be done at the Iowa State Capitol building rotunda. But on the day of the event, the day the event was added to the calendar, the Capitol event policy was changed. So they had to find another venue, which was that lawn. Now, historically, there have been similar sort of public reading events on that lawn, such as the Iowa 99 County Bible Reading Marathon. So why not another religious reading? Of course, there were people who were not so happy about this. They once again tried to change the event rules to prevent this. I don't know where I got this from, this article, Times Republican, but there is a great quote from Supervisors Chairman Kurt Hilmer. "We've gotten calls, we've gotten emails. We're worried you approved it. We didn't approve it. None of us. We're all God-fearing people. Nobody knew what was going on, but unfortunately, the First Amendment dictates what we can do and can't do." Unfortunately? I guess when it's not what you want. So strange. There was a really nice guy, though, at the event, ex-Toledo City Councilman Travis Mullen, who stopped by and is a Christian and gave water, donated stuff, and said, "There's a lot of people here who aren't going to act very Christian to you, so let me do so." So I thought that was very nice.
I love that.
But Lucien, what other insight can you give to this event?
I don't shy away from talking about the fact that we get that kind of Christian support sometimes. And I feel like we're seeing it more and more. I think we're seeing more people who identify as Christian speaking out against Christian nationalism, speaking in defense of pluralism and people having multiple viewpoints in the public square, being open and available to people who are Christian but understand the value of the First Amendment and the separation of church and state, and that it is not it's not in conflict with them to see us being allowed to read something that really is inoffensive like Paradise Lost. I mean, Paradise Lost is assigned in many literature classes in schools, maybe even sometimes at the high school level. It's not something considered, pornographic, offensive, vulgar in any other ways. It's just the context for some grandstanding politicians who, are going to decry the First Amendment, which you would think would be a losing formula for people when they're running for public office, but not anymore. And that's the scary thing. They're openly speaking against some of the fundamental basics of democratic rights, pluralism, diversity, those things. And that's not by accident. I don't think when somebody says that it's unfortunate that we have these First Amendment rights, that I used to think they just hadn't thought these things through, that they don't know what their job is. But more and more as time goes on and we fight these battles, I think we're up against a movement that really does understand what it's trying to do, and that it is trying to replace the system we have with something that is more autocratic and something that does preference a specific group and viewpoint over others, and that discards all that constitutional background that we have that ensures equal footing for the population. And that's really scary. And there's a population of people that are really in tune with that really are advocating for that kind of system and the kind of overthrow that we're looking at. And I'm really worried for the future, and I'm worried about the upcoming election.
Yeah, I mean, Mar was talking about that this Friday, about how for the first time, the Christian right hasn't sort of danced around their disdain for the separation of church and state, but has been actively voicing the fact that they're not fans, or they completely disagree with the premise to begin with, and that democracy was indeed founded on something that it absolutely wasn't, which is, Christianity intertwined with the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. But like, this really does seem to be the first time where they are actively saying F that.
Well,
And
politicians too, a lot of them now are starting to just make declarations that ostensibly have no legal weight because they haven't put it on paper. For instance, Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law in Florida that allowed for chaplains in schools, volunteer chaplains in school districts to be allowed to put chaplains in the schools. And we had said, if you put chaplains in schools, you're going to have to contend with satanic chaplains, because we view it as a duty of ours to uphold pluralism and, work within this system and take these accommodations that you provide to counteract the appearance of one viewpoint having the power and authority of the government. And during the press conference after he signed this bill, DeSantis got up at the podium and said, I know a lot of people are worried about Satanist chaplains. We're not going to deal with that. We're not going to have Satanist chaplains, and that's just what it is. He didn't bother to put forward a legal theory as to how you can still respect the Constitution and just take a religious group and say you're not allowed in. He didn't bother to do any of that. He just declared that we don't have to do that. And you also have a state superintendent in Oklahoma who just decided to announce, without passing a bill, without putting anything to a vote, he just said, we're going to put Bibles in all the schools. And he puts forward these religious proclamations about what kind of Christian kind of propaganda and practices they're going to make mandatory in schools. And it just bypasses the whole kind of administrative system and says that this is what we're going to do. And on the one hand, you think, well, that's just raw ignorance. These guys don't even understand what their job is. And that could be true. But on the other hand, I think it's even more sinister than that. I think they don't care, in that they want to dismantle that system, that they want to undermine it, and that they just want to move ahead on the power of just a mob movement to make it so. And I do think that, there's certain elements of the Make America Great Again movement that does just want to dismantle the administrative state. And I think, Vivek Ramaswamy, one of the candidates for the Republican nomination, he outright said he wanted to dismantle the administrative state. Didn't say what it would be replaced with, but once you take away those checks and balances and procedures, all you're really left with is a dictator. And I think that's what a lot of people want.
I always thought his subtext for his overtly religious dogma was sort of an underlying way of saying, guys, don't worry, I'm not Hindu. I always felt that was the parentheses for voters in certain blocks, that he was really in your face about it. Well, Joe, you're like this. I feel like I might be wrong. I used to think that this was always such a losing strategy, particularly in stuff like schools, because Americans don't like being told what to do, period, end of sentence. And the only type of person that doesn't like being told what to do more than Americans, American kids. And the more that you throw this kind of overtly religious propaganda into their face, the more they're going to rebel, the more they're going to hate it. But I think I might be wrong on all this, and I don't know necessarily how, because there's just so much more of it than there was even 10 years ago. So something must be working.
I don't know if it's working. There is more, or I don't know if just the amplification is louder because of media and social media. But Bill, sort of to your point with it not being cool, you know what they should do with Bibles is hide them like pornography. So the kids will go to the library and be like, oh, look what I found in the comic book section. I found a Bible. What's that? And it'll get them intrigued.
I like where your head's at. I've also always kind of thought, for some weird reason, at some point down the line, whenever I would think of Mary, I now kind of think of you. You sort of look how I think Mary might have looked. There's something very boring
14?
and vaguely. Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. So, but you're welcome.
Thank you.
You should just go to school and cosplay, as far as teaching the word is concerned. I think you'd be good at that.
Oh my gosh, Bill, all those what did you call them? Gosh, when everyone would get into the gymnasium together because you have a speaker.
Oh, assemblies. Those are the best. Oh, anything's better than math.
You know,
we would always have.
In the burbs of Chicago, in New Jersey, it was people who used to be in gangs coming to talk about why you shouldn't join a gang. But I should come, dressed as the Virgin Mary. And I don't know, give speeches about protection. I don't know.
You look like a 14-year-old pregnant virgin.
Yeah. That'd be great.
You're welcome. Well, actually, I'll give you another plug, Joe. I don't know why I'm describing the play that you're in rehearsals for right now, but basically Joe's playing, in this case, I guess both of them, depending on who's out, one half of twins that were astronauts. And I'm wondering, and one goes into space and the other's unable to for various reasons. And this very deep play, Joe, do you guys ever get into the question of God and afterlife as it relates to, I don't know, all things NASA? I feel like there's got to be a theological element to
there
it.
isn't. So this play, Lucien, takes place a little bit in the future, maybe in 2100. And they don't speak about God, but there are two different groups and sort of political groups. The Earth advocates who believe in saving this planet and the government should be spending money to save people here, the climate refugee crisis, all this stuff. And then there's the scientific NASA folks who are let's spend all that money to habitate on another planet. So it is interesting they don't speak of God. Maybe it's because at that point in the future, everyone's I don't know if there is one. Look at how bad things are going. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess particularly with your plot line. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it is this idea of, the people who really believe in the earth. And I think that might actually be a religion we see sort of springing up more as we move forward. And we see sort of a lot more natural disasters and climate change. There might be people who really kind of embrace the sort of holiness of the earth moving forward. But I don't know.
Well, it's always been a big question. If we found intelligence outside of Earth, what would that do to people's religious beliefs here? Because at the point where you find other intelligent life off Earth, the idea of Christianity venerating a man, from 2,000 years ago just seems so earthbound and narrow. You would think at that point, if you've expanded the population to be off Earth, but it's hard to say. The collapse of the old religions has been predicted for centuries now, and along post Enlightenment, but never really seemed to take hold. It always seems to come back somehow.
Seriously. I always think of that movie Contact, and every time I think of religion versus just all things intergalactic, for whatever reason, I think of Matthew McConaughey. It comes down to that. And it's an underrated movie, Joe. You should check it out.
Oh, we'll do. Yeah.
Matthew's very Matthew.
Maybe I'll dress up as Matthew McConaughey for Halloween if the Virgin Mary costume doesn't arrive in time.
Hey, Lucien, what do you got going on? I was thinking of the Satanic after school clubs when you were talking about the school stuff, but anything interesting coming up, either kind of Halloween related or not at all?
No, just hanging out, seeing what the election's going to bring and how things change or don't. After that, it's a perilous time. We have people attacking the idea of our tax exempt status all the time, whether they know anything about us or not. As you see, even doing a reading on the steps, in a public space where they allow for that, even when it's a recognized great work of literature. You have people complaining that we're allowed to engage in the public in any way. I think last time I was on with you guys, we had talked about there were certain efforts even to illegalize satanic symbols in public spaces, presumably including tattoos any of our membership might have, that kind of thing. So it's things could go either way, and it'd be drastic one way or the other. But I think if we end up in a situation where the Christian nationalists really do take hold of everything, we have just as much to blame the opposition to it on the left as we do the movements on the right to try to instantiate it and make it so.
Absolutely.
Because I can't imagine worse activism than that we've seen to try to counteract all of this than what passes as left-wing activism in the United States today. And at this point, I don't identify either left or right, but with the principles that we hold, because I don't consider myself any part of that.
I always think you're at your best with some of your media appearances when you just bash both sides relentlessly. I always is a good popcorn eater for me. I enjoy it a lot, and people should always remember too, if you donate to this wonderful enterprise, not only is there great merch available, but you also got to think about how the money can help them with private security. All right, people know where the headquarters are, and we don't want our buddy to get hurt or shot or any of that, particularly during the seasons. Well, these are issues.
Since I last talked to you guys, I don't know if you saw, somebody tried to bomb us. Fortunately, the bomb didn't work. The guy made a massive pipe bomb, wrapped it in nails and screws and everything else to try to create shrapnel from it. But he threw it. He didn't construct it properly. The end cap came off. Gunpowder kind of poured out. And the FBI, ATF, Homeland Security, everybody kind of descended on the scene. It was a crime scene for a while. They set up a headquarters, and then they arrested a guy who's in prison now. But they said if it had gone off, it would have been catastrophic.
Oh, my God. You guys got to invest in Salem bunkers. Not to mention the upside, too, is think about all the cool archaeological things you might find while you're digging them.
Fair.
There's that bonus right there, too.
I got a dog since then. It's a trained canine dog, and she's great. I would have never gotten that if it weren't for this situation. So try to look at the bright side. I have a cool dog
nice.
now.
Well, so can it be both? Is it not like one of those cop dogs where you're not supposed to be nice to it or pet it or anything like that? Is this like actually dog a fun hane while still be acting as a good security measure?
Oh, the dog gets all kinds of love. Sleeps on the bed for the most part. Treated. It's a very affectionate dog, but still does all the protection training and things like that. So if you're supposed to not treat the dog nicely, I really fail on that front. But she seems well aware of the situations and everything. Dutch Shepherd Malinois mix, really smart, and I actually didn't know they made dogs like this. I was saying,
I've never heard of it.
The dog is like what is to dogs what Captain America is supposed to be to humans. Like she can jump over my head. Her running speed is incredible. Her energy levels are off the hook, and she's got a huge fang-lined jaw that can pretty much chomp through anything. It's insane.
Well, here's the $1 million question: does the dog have a costume planned yet?
Oh yeah, she's got big ears. She looks like a bat without wings, so we just give her bat wings. I think that's the way to go.
That's great.
Joe, I can't even put into words how big your Halloween costume ideas list is right now. Just from hearing all that.
I got to write them all down. Lucien, any last minute plugs, promotions, anything else you want to share?
I guess check out my Substack and check out the work we're doing with the Satanic Temple. And I can't believe I failed to mention it up to this point, but also, just this week, we opened our second abortion clinic. We have one in New Mexico, and now we have one in Virginia.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Who'd have thought that it would have gone down this path, even 20 years ago, that these are the things? Wow, what a time to be alive.
Well, the idea is, to keep abortion at least religiously protected.
Which is that's a really brilliant angle when you think about it.
Yeah, well, we'll see how the legal cases go and all of that. But as it stands right now, we have 2 abortion clinics.
And now for the best part of the show. Hey, Bill, I got a Halloween costume for you. Captain America dog. I think it would be great. I'm not
against it. I'm told Crypto the Super Dog might be in the next Superman, so I'm going to counteract it with the Marvel dog. I like it.
Okay, very
Not
nice.
too shabby. Happy marriage to Gino and Keanu, by the way.
Yes,
While I'm here.
yes.
Yep.
And have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks again, Lucien.
Thank you.
I'm sure glad that's over.
That's all for this episode of Mornin with Bill and Joanne.
I wasn't even listening. I was listening to podcasts.
Shut up, Bill.
Subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts.
Yeah, I wasn't listening either.
Very nice, Joanne. Touché.
For videos of this and other episodes, go to @MorninBillAndJoe on YouTube.
Bill, put the sword down.
Run, Joanne, run!
Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We would do it for you. Okay, that's a lie.
I never liked your show. Sorry, wasn't listening. See ya.